Good morning. So, over the last week or so, we've been working on climate change lessons. Hopefully, 2 days ago, you finished the last of the WebQuest tasks. And yesterday, hopefully, you worked on the IXL lesson as well. If you were having trouble with the IXL lesson, I will be in my office hours at 12 to go over that or even today's lesson with you. Consider this somewhat of a light review of the different concepts we've learned about. I'm going to be using the website Ology by the American Museum of Natural History, which we know is located right here in New York City. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go through two of these websites with you as a review. I hyperlinked these so that when you click, you can just easily open them. I'm going to put that directly in the agenda for today as well and on the Google Classroom assignment that I'm going to post for you in a little while. When you do the quizzes, I'm just going to say the answer choices are on the website. You have to pick the correct one. And then, in addition, you have to give an explanation. Now, there is information on the website, but it is not sufficient enough in many cases. It's going to require you to reach back into your prior knowledge from the previous lessons and add explanation. I will get into that in a little while. So, for example, let's get started. I'm going to open the first website, in pictures climate change. So I'm going to go through these pictures really quickly. The pictures are taken by a geologist who curates for the Museum of Natural History. Currently, he's a curator on the exhibit Climate Change: The Threat to Life and New Energy Future. So this is an image here we can see of the United States. We can see some parts are more lit up than other parts. We know that there's more dense populations in certain places, especially near the water coastlines, and especially where there are some bigger cities. We can see right here, New York City would fall in this area here. Long Island and parts of Jersey are very highly densely populated. Down here would be probably around the area where Miami is. I know that New Orleans would fall somewhere in this highly lit up area, as well as parts of Texas and other scattered cities along the beginnings of the Midwest. Here we have Washington State, near where Seattle is, part of Oregon, most likely Portland, and then some of the cities in California. This is showing us that these lights have to be generated by some form of energy, and they are being generated by fossil fuels such as coal and oil, which provide us with heat and light and any other types of electricity. And as we know, those release some form of greenhouse gas. So when coal and other fossil fuels are released, we know that it burns carbon dioxide, also known as CO2, for having one carbon, two oxygens, and it's released into the atmosphere. The carbon dioxide is a greenhouse gas and it traps heat in the atmosphere, which is something else I'm going to be reviewing on another one of these websites. And it's been causing climate changes and warming of temperatures, which we've gone over through other websites. As the atmosphere has been gaining more carbon dioxide, we know that the temperature has gone up on average for the United States and the entire world. We know that for a fact, and that doesn't mean that we can have cold weather, because remember, weather is very different. Weather is what's going on outside at any given moment. Climate is the average conditions for an area. So because of this warming trend, we know that ice near the Arctic and at the caps of the Earth in Greenland have been melting as well. Many of the organisms that rely on this ice are suffering because of that. Polar bears are able to swim in the water to find food, but they are finding fewer and fewer pieces of ice to land on as they are hunting for their prey. Melting is also causing a rise in sea levels. We know that's bad for the coastal areas, which we saw in one of the visualizations where if the height of the water the coastline went up 6 feet, Miami and New Orleans would be underwater completely. It's also causing a whole lot more of evaporation of water. The higher temperatures are causing, because of the higher rate of evaporation, stronger and more frequent storms. That's why we've been seeing a lot more strong hurricanes, such as Hurricane Harvey that hit Houston and Hurricane Maria that hit Puerto Rico and caused massive amounts of damage that they have not fully recovered from yet. More evaporation doesn't necessarily just mean more strong storms with flooding. It also means that the evaporated water has to come from somewhere. And this is an example of an area that has been experiencing more droughts. With less rain and less moisture in the soil, soil becomes cracked and is less hospitable to life and plants, which can be detrimental for many of the plants and animals that live in these areas already. It also is causing the bleaching of coral reefs. Coral reefs are a home for many organisms, and they are reliant on the algae that live in there. The algae is dying from the increase in the temperature of the water as well, because as the ice is melting, the ocean is absorbing more of the heat from the increase in global temperatures, and as that happens, the algae dies and it becomes and the coral reef is not able to survive. We also know that the world population is rising, and the more people we have on Earth, the more energy needs we have as well. With more energy needs, that means the burning of more fossil fuels. So governments have to look to other ways to try and meet the demands of energy in a clean way. So we're looking to energy resources, which I hope we can study more, such as here we have wind turbines and solar energy. So the wind turbines move with the wind, and then there's a turbine that spins inside, connected to wires that generate electricity. These photocells from the solar panels absorb the heat, and they are able to also generate energy and heat and electricity as well. We will go into this in much more detail in future lessons. We're also looking at different types of light bulbs. Big push now for fluorescent light bulbs, as they use less energy but are able to give us the same amount of brightness that we've been used to with older light bulbs. That's also a great way to save money, as they are less expensive since you were burning less energy as well. So there's a benefit economically as well. And also remembering that when you're not using certain devices, and plugging your phones, not leaving them to charge all night, as well as unplugging other devices like TVs and other appliances that are not in use. And also trying to use other methods of transportation. So in a city like New York City, we've been using a lot of mass transportation like buses and trains, and that's great. If you're able to walk somewhere, then that's even better, as you're not burning the fossil fuels that are needed to energize the trains and the buses either, even though many of the buses have converted to hybrid technology of using both electric and gas. Using bicycles and anything else, the added benefit is more physical fitness when you're doing these things. So I'm going to now move into the second site, where we're going to review the greenhouse gas effect, and I'll show you what to do with your activities. So remember, we've been discussing the effects of global warming and climate change. Just a quick review, Earth's atmosphere keeps much of the sun's energy from escaping. This process is called the greenhouse effect, and keeps the planet warm enough for life to exist. Remember, some of the energy does have to stay trapped for us to survive. If there was none of the greenhouse gas energy if there were no greenhouse gases, none of the solar radiation would be trapped, and Earth would be too cold for life. Some of it does re-radiate back out in space, though, to make sure we don't get too warm. So the atmosphere allows half of Earth's sun's energy to reach the surface, That's here. About a third of the sun's energy is reflected directly off the atmosphere back into space and does not affect us. The rest of the sun's energy, about 20%, is absorbed by the greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. So, greenhouse gases like carbon dioxide, water vapor, and methane, which are the most common. And the greenhouse gases in the atmosphere also absorb and hold some of the heat energy radiating back from Earth's surface. So, this process has been going on for billions of years and is natural. As I said, we need this to occur so that Earth is warm enough for life. However, with the addition of the fossil fuels, as you saw in previous visualizations from the NASA website that I directed you to, we've been adding more and more carbon dioxide, and the more of the and other greenhouse gases such as water vapor from all the evaporation of water from the increased temperature, and methane from processes such as raising livestock. And with all of that, more greenhouse gases means more of this energy is being trapped, which means higher amounts of heat. So we've been seeing climate change occurring. So we've been seeing things such as I showed you before, the Arctic ice is melting, coral reefs are disappearing, sea levels are rising. So we can see here that the big change in the ice from 1979 up to 2003, the website that I directed you to from NASA showed us something a little bit more recent. Keep this in mind, that the melting ice causes sea levels to rise. The water absorbs more heat than ice. We know that the ice is able to reflect some of the heat and sun's radiation back into space. So the more water is, the more heat that's being absorbed, the worse it is, because the warmer the water surrounding this, the more melting that happens. Keep this all in mind. So what you're going to do today for these two quizzes is you're going to click here, and I will post this as well, and you're going to take a quiz. So in some parts of the world, rainstorms have become more intense over the past several decades. Is that a change in weather or climate? Now, this question is talking about decades and stronger, more intense storms. Since it's talking about a longer range of time and a change in the change in storms over time, that is climate. This is telling us the trend of more intense signs. Certain locations is a sign of climate change. One heavy rainstorm is a weather event. Keep that in mind. Yes, this is partial explanation. Some of these questions do not have much of an explanation. You're going to do this correct choice and the explanation, and the same thing for the second quiz right here. What do you know about climate change? You're also going to choose a correct answer and use the explanation given to you as well as your background information to answer these questions, and then submit this for credit. If you have any questions, I will be available during my Google Meet at 1 o'clock. I think I may have said 12 earlier by accident. The IXL is also on the table for you to review with me if you are having trouble with that during your during the day yesterday. As I said, I'm here to go over anything that you need if you have any questions. If you're unable to attend the meet for any reason, although I strongly suggest it, please leave a private comment and I will be glad to go over something with you in that manner as well. Thank you and have a nice day.